done a few other things to improve the quality here and there. As well, I went into the Xbox game mode setting and made sure that playback recording was turned off and Xbox mode, whatever, was turned on. There's a guide out there you can actually go through and see what I'm talking about for that. In here, I also went in and fixed some of the graphics in my settings, and I'll go through that. I started off with pretty much making sure I went to full screen again, because full screen you get a little more out of your game. Make sure it's close set to your setting. I turned VSync off because I'm not going to have any tear rate issues. I limit the frame to just a little bit below what my screen can do. Then the resolution scale, I haven't done any changes yet because it doesn't look like I need to. So that is the last adjustment that I have to do to see whether or not if I'm getting in-game lag with the stream itself. So if my stream is having lag, I have to adjust this a little bit to make it better. I started off with overall as low, and then I went view distance medium. Load BIOS is perfectly fine at 1. Post-processing low, shadows low, mask cascade shadows low. This all helps affect your processing as well. If you're also streaming this game, it'll help with removing the issues with the lost packets. Over here, we want to have contact shadows on. This does not cause too much of anything, but it does help with the shadow issues. Textures at medium or high, depending on how good your system is if you're streaming. Remember, these are all set for streaming setups. And low is okay, but you can. I got a RTX 2060, so I can literally go up to, if I really wanted to 8 gigabytes of high. But I want to keep it at medium, a step down from what it is to give it some ability. Pool size, I went in between medium and high. Sorry, medium and epic, high and epic, to allow myself to have a little more focused of how much gigabytes I want for my not gigabytes, but pool size I want for what I'm drawing on. So this way I have more looking better graphics. The effects I turned low. This can have some really nasty effects. Foliage at low, shading at low, anti-aliasing at high. There's a reason why I'm doing anti-aliasing at high. Let's turn it to low, and you'll see right here immediately. You notice how the game is shimmering right now? And the tree lines and the bushes and all this. You have two ways of fixing this. You can use, and I'll pull it up. You can use anti-aliasing, and you want to set it to high. Period. That's where you remove the blurriness and the shimmering that you get when you're running around. So no more shimmering and no blurriness. It's nice, crisp, and clean as you're running in. Got that deer. And you can see how nice everything is so far. There's also another test that I can do. And the reason why I'm doing this slowly and showing you how things are going is to give you a pretty good idea what the heck I'm doing to get a nice good screen here. So that's with anti-alias. Give me a second here. I'm going to make myself a campfire, and then one by one, because I'm going to be in this for a little bit. And I also got to get some got to get myself some drink, some air, because I'm going to need that soon. I'm going to take a few minutes to mess with this real quick. And then this is with anti-aliasing set on high. And this will work with just basic gaming too, by the way, guys. So then you can tool up what you want as you go. Since this is going to be a little while I'm going to be here, I want to make sure that I have enough explanation to the settings that I'm making changes with. So we're going to quickly come down to the water area over here. Before I build anything. This is just temporarily for my process works of testing settings. And as you can see, I'm running right through all this with no problems. Alright, let's make this quick. Make 4 of these. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of these. And 1 of these. Door? Should have. I didn't have enough wood, that's why. Alright, let's make this. Water real quick. Yeah, this is sandbox mode. Not that bad, I like it. It's good for testing. Now we'll go back to the graphics here in a moment once I get this wood and get stuff cooking. Because I don't want to die in sandbox mode and take an experience debt, you know what I mean? That would suck. So you gotta do a little survival while you explain this. Then we're going to test the FSR function in a moment here. And then you'll see the difference between Anti-Aliasing high and FSR. I like the Anti-Aliasing high because it seems to give me a little better processing rate, as well as a few other nice little nifty tricks. Okay, we'll go ahead and consume the stack here. So let's go ahead and get into that. So we'll go ahead and come down to here. We'll go ahead and turn this on by performance. So when we use performance, we have it, let it do what it does. And immediately you notice there's shimmering. And when you run, slight blurriness. Look at the tree. It focuses slightly out and then back in. We'll wait for the storm to finish because that'll give you a really good idea how this is going. That's smart. They actually paid attention to the open door areas now. Here we go. So now you gotta have the doors on. Otherwise, you won't get that protected bonus. Good to see they're fixing some of those things and issues. The reason why I don't have my video up of me talking about this, I'm in a dark room right now, and I'm just streaming with just voice on. This is just for testing purposes only. Waiting for the storm to pass. Kind of sucks. Now there's a very light shimmer that I can see on my screen, and it unfocuses when I move a little bit. It's just a very, very slight unfocus. You see how when I stop after a second or two, it sharpens up? Now, let's check DLS on a different setting. Let's try it on FRS, sorry. We'll try quality. Oh, immediate difference right here. But there's a very, very slight unfocus as you run towards something. But this actually gives you a really, really nice look on how everything is looking here. Look at this. Now, let's take a look at anti-aliasing. Now, this is with an anti-aliasing right here. Should be at our high setting. Ah, no, not epic. Let's see, anti-aliasing high. There we go. And high works perfectly fine. Gives you the same, at high anti-aliasing, you get the same type of quality and without the slight blurriness that you would get from the FSR. So I find that interesting. I like the anti-aliasing more. It seems to function better. And it also uses a little less strain on your processing. Let's see. Let's go to settings. As we go on from there, simple building shadows on. This helps with the shadowing when you're around buildings and other objects. I find it a lot better, and it doesn't do too much to your processing power. Disable lighting effects off. Definitely you want to do this because this eats a lot of your processing. Tessellation can be on. It's very minimal effect on anything, like 1 or 2 frames per second, maybe 3 to have these two on. But it actually helps out with the with a lot of things and gives you a more variation, shadowing, depths, and all that to make things look a lot clearer, especially when you're using the FRS mode going and or the anti-aliasing. Using DLS mode and FSR mode is about a 23 frames per second drop if you're interested in your frames per second. If you're just using FSR at itself, it's about 10. And if you're using high quality anti-aliasing, this is about 5 or 6 from what I can tell. So this is actually a really good option for what you want to get rid of the blurriness and shadows and all that, and the flickering. It helps tremendously. Volumetric Clouds, you can have that on if you want, if you got a newer system with a lot of memory. Because I'm streaming here, and as you see that I'm doing this, I don't want to turn that on. That will tank my frame rates in the streaming. So no, thank you. Otherwise, you guys will be pretty much having some problems watching me play while storms are going on, and it'll skip frames quite a bit. So that's why I have it turned off. Again, these are settings that I'm using for streaming purposes. Disable player light shadows, definitely off, just like you have with any type of shadows and all that. Always keep it off. Shadow filter mode, I've tried PCF and I tried PCSS. PCF will give you blocky shadows, and this can be kind of disorientating. In my last stream that I played, you'll see that how blocky those shadows get and how disorientating it is running at nighttime. It's not worth using PCF at all. Don't touch it. I strongly don't touch it unless you have a really older PC that forces you to use that option. PCSS is a much better process. It smoothens out the shadows, makes them more realistic, and combined with tessellation, terrain, and high anti-aliasing, you're guaranteed to get a much, much better draw on your processing power from this for the graphics that you're outputting. This is just, again, the information I have for my newest setup for streaming purposes in the game. I'm still kind of messing around with the resolution scale here, as well as the textures right here. It just really comes down to what I want to do. And then the shading, that's also another one for hair shading. This is actually an interesting setting. I'm going to see what a medium would do. This would require a restart. So we'll go ahead and restart the game and see how this is going to look. All right. See, what I'm doing is I'm trying to push it just slightly to see where on stream, when and if I start getting frame rate issues of the game starting to lag on the stream. Currently, since I started up the stream, I've had absolutely no frame rate issues right now. So I've done something good. I've made some good changes by switching the game from being primarily done on my graphics card to being done on my actual hardware CPU. And that was one of the biggest changes, by the way. There's a guide out there that shows you how to set that up. All right, reloading Icarus. This should load a lot faster too. There we go, loaded. Makes a huge difference. All right, we're gonna go back and play online. I have one character in a drop right now, but I'm using this character for testing purposes. I like the new changes that they did today with the update. They added more things for cooks to do. They added a new weapon that I want to get my hands on. It has an automatic poison effect to its shots, the scale weapons, which are awesome. Yeah, I'm not even lagging. Usually you get that stutter lag as you come in. Don't even get that at all. I'm really enjoying these settings. Okay, there's no frame rate issues, but it looks like it's gone yellow a little. There we go. I'm watching the frame rate meter right now. Let's make ourselves a torch. Let's make our way towards the beach. Now I'm starting to get frame rate hits. But I'll show you what the fur setting does. So definitely we want to keep the fur shading down to low. This where we don't get hairy. If we have it set on low, we won't have hairy critters. That's basically what that does. Meaning, I'll show you what I mean in a moment once we get a animal killed here. We gotta go dark. So for 18 minutes, I had no frame drops with the previous setting. So this is kind of a huge thing. I don't have any I'm starting to get screen lag too, it looks like. Yeah, so that's not a good setting. Not while streaming. Should be a deer somewhere near here. Rabbit is not what I want. There we go. Okay. Alright, let's go take a look. So as you can see, it looks like it's got a little better fur on it. Kind of has fur. Can't see it too much, but you can see it just a little bit there. So it gives it a more realistic look. The higher that you have it setting, the better it is. But for the purposes of what I want to do, I'll have to turn that setting off. So let's go ahead and go into settings. We're going to remove the shading effect here. And then we'll go ahead and back out and restart. Some of these settings do require you to literally log off and back into the game, which kind of sucks. Yeah, that shading effect has caused a little bit of trouble with the notifications that I'm watching. This is where I'm seeing how much frame skipped that I'm seeing. All right, Icarus loading up. All right, I'm going to clear that out. And that was only within the first few minutes of logging into the game. That one setting caused that. That's pretty brutal. All right, so everything's green right off the bat. When I started up with the presentation screen, when it was doing their soundtrack loading and showing you the stuff, it was in yellow. Right now it's in green. All the way through. And this is supposed to be green in this setting as well. What I'm talking about is the frame skip performance window. For those of you that use OBS. Alright, let's go to Outposts. Let's do this again. We'll probably jump out and in. We'll probably be doing this testing for another like 7 minutes or so. I do notice loading is a lot faster. Let's go into settings. What do I want to mess with? Don't need to do anything here. Don't need to do anything here. That's good enough. Pool size is good enough. Effects, foliage, no. And let's see, resolution scale. You can easily lower that to help with that. Probably about 80% resolution scale. Let's see how this looks. Yeah, it does. Right now I'm playing with the resolution scale. Trying to get it a little better than what it's at. Can't even find where I killed the deer, damn it. Don't you hate that when you lose them in the foliage? Haha! Shock one up to the foliage. Alright, let's see here. If I bring it up to 100 again. How's the 100 look? So when I went up to 100, it immediately gave me whoa, 55. Yeah, I gotta bring that down. Yeah, so that effect directly, that settings, resolution effect, resolution scale needs to come down quite a bit. So bring it down to 70. From 100 to 70, we did it in 80. Oh wow, that does affect the online screenplay quite a bit. I don't even see any lag on the online, what you're seeing. See, I'm not looking at my monitor. I'm looking at the OBS live feed and watching the video off that because that's what you're seeing online. This is at 70% resolution scale. At 80%, I had every 3 to 4 seconds a slight skip on the screen that you could see. It was very, very nominal. It was just a slight jump. Now at 70, I don't see any lag skips on a full run while running through the woods. Yeah. Hmm. I got one frame hit, so let's see how bad that frame hit was. That was a 25%. Yeah, not good. We'll go ahead and reduce it just a little more and see what we get out of it. What? I can punch bone? This is ridiculously stupid. What the heck? I can punch it and get resources. Hello, Ark Survival Evolved. Alright, so let's bring the resolution scale down to 60%. Hit back. Hit C, and then C again. Clear out the setting. Okay, now let's see how this works. This is at 60% resolution scale now, guys. Holy crap, it's much smoother on the playback. Ooh, this is delicious. I have actually, honestly, it feels like I have more precise control in the game. It really feels more fluid, that I can actually respond better. Yeah, I'm actually doing response better. This is actually much better, 60%. Okay, I have no frame rate loss yet, so that's good. Because the last frame rates were happening within minutes of each other. It's been a few minutes already. Got nothing out of it. Oh, by the way, they added new stuff to the game. It's actually pretty interesting. You should see the logs. Seriously. Can't believe I missed it a couple times like that. Guess that one broke. We'll wait till daylight and see how the graphics looks on the trees and stuff. So, anti-aliasing is a bit better than dealing with DLS and SR. Yeah, full run through the trees and not breaking a sweat. Wow. Yeah, this is working out really well. I think I got the settings finally. Man, it took me 3 weeks to get the settings down. And like several hours of messing with things. Alright, we should be done here any minute. Got myself a fish. All right, yeah, absolutely no frame rate loss in the last 10 minutes now after I did that change to 60. So that looks to be really, really good. So that's I'll go over my stream settings real quick. What I did is I went into, let me find the guide that I was looking at on YouTube real quick. And I recommend following this guide because it'll give you a really good idea on how to set your system up for playing Icarus. Is this the one? Oh man, there's a couple of them up here that are actually pretty good. What was this one? Yeah, it's this one.
What's up? My name is Tech.
Yep, there we go. Got it. All right, found it. This is the guide that I used. It actually has some stuff inside of it that will help you switch it over so that Icarus is playing off your CPU versus your GPU. So what they have done is they have set Icarus to be played off your GPU. If you're streaming and playing this game at the same time, it's eating up a lot of your resources off your GPU. So in order to prevent it using a lot of your GPU, getting hardware acceleration to help with the game off your CPU, this guide will show you how to set that all up, as well as adjust the Xbox control panel, which also has an effect on this game, which could, hamper some of your frame rate and stuff like that. It really did help. And then you just go through all the other settings and just follow what he does at first, and then make adjustments as you see fit as you go. And then just test it out in the sandbox mode. It'll be pretty easy. For me, I'll just show you what I have. So if you're looking to stream this game and you have a pretty good rig, but you're having problems with OBS skipping frames while you're streaming, this works for me, but it's not going to 100% work for everybody, but it'll get you on the right track. There's other settings in your system you can change to help you fix that issue as well. But this is the in-game fix that I have found. Alright, so you definitely want to be on full screen and at your native resolution for starters. Turn VSync off. You don't even need this if you got a good computer because you're not going to be tearing your frames. Your frame limit, you want to keep it below your refresh rate, at least by a third below your refresh rate. I am 144 hertz fresh on my main screen, so I have it down to 100. I can go down to 80 or 100 in between there, and that would be perfectly fine. This can affect what is on your stream of OBS and how it's capturing. So a little lower, you're pretty set. I would recommend 70, 80 if you're having that issue. But if you're fine with 100, 100 is just a nice bar for me. Resolution scale, we played with that for a little bit, and we found out that at 100, I was getting some frame rate loss in OBS, and it was happening every 2 to 3 minutes. Dropped it down to 80, it was happening every 3 to 5 minutes. Dropped it down to 70, it was happening every 8 to 10 minutes. And then when I dropped it to 60, I'm not having any frame rates at all issues while streaming with OBS. Works for me right there. Motion blur, I hate it. Turn it off. When you do the quality setup, put it to low first, and then make your adjustments as you go down the list. Medium distance, so I can see far out ahead. Load BIOS, you can have that at 1 to 2. I prefer 1 to reduce lag and frame rate issues. Post-processing set to low. Shadows set to low. These have direct impact on your system. Shadow Cascade set to 1. Same thing with Direct Impact. Contact Shadow doesn't do too much of anything other than help smooth out, make things look a little more nicer. It uses very, very little FPS and processing power. So you can turn this on. I recommend it. Textures set at medium. If you gotta see how much RAM your graphics card has. Let's say if you're a 1080i and you have 4 gigabytes of onboard memory, say the lower version of that, but the higher versions have 8. Let's do the higher version. Let's say you have 8 gigabytes of RAM on your graphics card. You want to set it to medium quality, one step low. You can go to high if you really want to, but medium is actually a good middle ground. I always do it one step back of what your graphics memory has, so this way you have more memory for dedicating to other stuff. And that's what this does. So if you got a really, really kick-ass card, you can literally go up to 10. Texture streaming pool size. This limits how much you can have going to the graphics and textures as you're in the game world and running around. So that does affect your video card memory caching, as well as it could affect some of the frame rate issues with OBS, so you got to be careful with that. Effects, you want it on low. Those hog system memory usage. Foliage, low, same thing. Shading, this does have somewhat of a very minor impact to gameplay. But if you're streaming, it has a medium impact because of how much processing you're doing. So you want that to low. But if you are playing without streaming anything, you can actually have that to medium and high, depending on if you want hairy animals and hairy people. So there you go. It's personal preference on that one. As for a streamer, I keep that to low. Anti-aliasing on high. The reason being is the high anti-aliasing removes the flicker, the blur. When you're running at full speed, everything is sharp and crisp. And it takes a lot less memory and processing power to have anti-aliasing running. And I'll explain the other 2 options later. Use simple building shadows on. This helps out with the shadow effects at night and during day around buildings and stuff like that. It's very minimal on the processing. I would recommend it on. Disabling lighting effects, a huge impact on your system. Turn that off. Tessellation, Terra, Deformation, Experimental. These are perfectly fine. They use very, very little processing power and FPS. So, as it looks so much better with this on. Trust me. And it works well with what I have in settings now. Now, Volumetric Clouds. Holy shit, don't even bother turning this on unless you're playing and not streaming. This is a huge eatery of deliciousness. It makes the weather effects look freaking awesome, but at the same time at the cost of your processing power. Have fun with that. Disable player light shadows, definitely turn off. This is not a PvP game. You don't need to watch for other players and know if they're coming around a corner because the shadow's giving them away. You don't need that. It also eats processing power. Shadow filter method. There are 2 options you have. The reason why I'll explain what they both do, and I've experienced this on my last stream of Icarus. I was running PCF all the way through the stream. On that stream, the shadows were blocky, and when you got close to objects that had shadows within them, it really made it hard to see through foliage and other stuff because of how blocky and everything it looks. Highly recommend do not use PCF unless you absolutely have to. PCSS really makes the shadows look really good. I need to go get some air real quick. Ooh, this is bad. I was wondering what the beeping was. was close. I almost asphyxiated myself in sandbox mode. Awesome. I'm so good. I'm such a good player. um. Anyways, let's get back to it. Settings. This actually makes the shadows more smooth, more accurate, much better to see through the foliage at night with light sources equipped in your belt. Highly, highly recommended to have this on. It doesn't take too much resources to use this. It's a much better option, trust me. Unless you want to feel like you're in an old Pac-Man game. Use PCF if you want to be a Pac-Maner. Anyways, DLS mode and FSR mode. These work in conjunction with each other to better handle your shading and shadowing and all the other stuff to make the game look better. I do not recommend having these turned on for the purposes that they eat more processing power and FPS in the game. Someone had quoted that they have tested this in that post there, saying it was like a 23 FPS that they lost for having those two things operating at once, while just using anti-aliasing on high is actually far lower. You can even get away with Epic with almost being as closest to these two, but don't need to. So, DLS mode has the AI setting and has an AI that adjusts your graphics as it learns as you play and so forth and so on. The FRS helps with removing the flickering and some other issues. If you use FRS mode over anti-aliasing mode, you would have to set it to quality to have the better feel of running around without the flickering and the blurriness, but it's very, very slightly there. Performance, it's a bit more noticeable than quality. I've tested these two out earlier in the stream. You can see that. You have to really look, and I tend to really look when that comes to it. I find that FSR mode is okay. It works best with DLSS mode. These two should always be together. But if you don't want to take the frame rate hit and the processing power hit of these two running at once and trying to figure out, hey, how do I optimize your shadows and other stuff, then just go with the old school anti-aliasing, the tried and true. So I'm a fan of anti-aliasing at this setting for this game. It works so much better. Ray tracing, if you're playing solo, definitely you can have that on to make it look awesome with a really good rig. Definitely not for streaming. Don't try it. It will tank your processing power and your OBS frame rate into oblivion. You probably crash your OBS in the process. So I don't recommend this with OBS running at all. So that's the breakdown of what I did and how I have things set up. This works for me very, very well. And as you can see, I have crisp looking graphics. Things are running nice. I can move at full speed run through the foliage and everything else. And it's not lagging on the stream at all. I mean, I can actually sit here and look at the OBS playback for you guys that are viewing, and I can play right off that. And that's what I'm doing right now. Let's hunt this deer. I'm not even looking at the main screen. I'm just looking at the OBS playback for you guys on the stream watching currently. Just that off of the OBS desktop program that I'm using. If I can play like this, that means I have it really nicely set. So, hopefully that this little run has been fruitful for you, those who are watching that are curious. That's the breakdown of what I've finally discovered and learned, and it took me a while to get this set up. So this is not a guide to show you how to get the best out of your performance of Icarus. It's more of, this is what I'm doing to get the best out of Icarus for myself and my streaming. So this way you can actually look at what I'm doing and then go through, make your settings and changes, and see whether or not this works for you. If it does, kudos. If you have to make a slight few changes to make it look better, have shadows, switch things around, go for it. As long as it will work for you, uh, that's the best thing. So it's mainly just making sure that people have a good idea where the bar is set for me and what I'm planning on doing. So, with that being said, thank you everyone for watching. Have a good night. Be safe. Be well. We'll be starting up Icarus in about 30 minutes, so I gotta start preparing for that. And we'll be continuing on with our current play. I believe we're gonna be going in and working on concrete up the base, as well as making some other items. Oh, by the way, I think they fixed the sprinklers so that they now will manually water plants. So we have to test whether or not those sprinklers are functioning like they said that they are. And definitely, I'm looking to see what the base is going to look like in concrete. With that being said, have a good night. Be safe and be well, everyone. If you like what you see, please hit that follow button. Every follow helps out. And I highly recommend you take the time to watch that link that I have posted above to further increase your enjoyment of the game by getting your computer to function better and use a lot of features that your CPU can provide for the game. All right. Have a good night. Take care. Sylvtown out.